Om Sri Sai Ram. My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Well, Swami, I have, like many other people, everybody's life is full of ups and downs. It's a journey of roller coaster, I would say. Even my life also has been something like that. But every time I have felt problems or I was at the lowest level, somehow I skipped failure. I could succeed myself. I could bring out myself from that morass. Now, respectively, if I try to connect with Swami, I feel that every time there was some invisible hand who protected me, always, invariably always. And there are so many incidences. I can cite a couple of them. And as I said, there are so many, but one very wonderful incident, I would say, is that of Iraq, my experience in Iraq. Then I was working with in Iraq with the United Nations. I was working as consultant for United Nations. Before I went to Iraq, earlier also I had done few UN assignments in other countries. But after that, somehow, there was a big financial problem in UN. So many projects were cancelled. Even in some projects where I was nominated were also cancelled. So I thought, now since many projects are being cancelled, I didn't see my future in UN. Then I thought I should start my own business, and I started my business in Nepal. Basically, I am an engineer. My basic degree is engineering, then management. So I started an engineering company, and that was doing fantastically good business. There were over 200 staffs, 17 branches throughout the country, and we are doing fantastically, even financially also wonderfully good. In the meantime, I received an offer from United Nations to work for or to go to Iraq, Baghdad, immediately as consultant. You see, what happens is, when there is a slot, there is a vacancy in any recipient country for particular expertise, United Nations or UN agency, whichever it may be, they select 7 candidates out of the names they have in their roster. And then they send those 7 names or CVs of those 7 people or 7 experts to the recipient country. And it is up to the recipient country to select one of them. Earlier also in some Islamic countries, I was nominated, but always my nomination was rejected. And I had thought that it was mainly because I was not Muslim, so the rejection might have been there. So when I received this invitation from United Nations for Iraq, I was really in a dilemma. My business was doing fantastically well. In fact, financially, it was not a lucrative offer for me to work for United Nations anymore. So I thought, if I say no to this offer, the door will be closed. But I knew that since I am a Hindu, and I'm talking of year 2000, Then Saddam Hussein was the president, and there was a big embargo by United Nations in Iraq. So the life was terrible in that area, and they hated, like anything, UN and even Americans also, because they thought on instigation of America, United Nations had imposed embargo. So I thought, if I say yes, obviously I will not be selected. I will not be accepted by Iraq because I was non-Muslim, and they are a very fundamental Islamic country. So why close doors? So I said, okay. I said, okay, I'm available. I can go there. Lo and behold, within 10 days, the confirmation came from United Nations office saying that I should report immediately within 10, 12 days, exactly about a week or two. Now I was in a fix. I had no option but to join and go there.
You thought it was never going to happen. They will reject you because you are a Hindu.
Yes, let's say non-Muslim. Let's say non-Muslim. Because they are fundamentalists, very, very Islamic fundamentalist country. Because I'm saying that because of the past experience also in a couple of Islamic countries. I was nominated and then I was rejected. And they had Susan, person of Muslim background. They had preferred that way. So I dashed off to Whitefield. Swami then was in Whitefield. That time I was vice chairman of National Council of Nepal. And I came to Whitefield. Swami was there. Then I prayed from distance, because I had to return back very next day. I had only two darshans. So I prayed to Swami from distance. Swami, you have given me everything, material, everything. In fact, I don't need to go there. But since I have already committed, so I have to go there. Now, but still, if you bless me, then I will go. Otherwise, I will make some excuse and then reject it. Unless you give me blessing, I will not go. Towards the end of his darshan, he just looked at me and then he said, Abhay Hasta. He gave Abhay Hasta. I thought that was enough. He gave me green signal. So very next morning, I flew back to my country and then went to Iraq. There also, when I reached there, I was really in a very, very confusing situation as to why Swami has sent me here. Because materially, financially, it was not very, very beneficial to me, because my business was doing very good. Although my business was in a very, very organized way, my absence could have, done some negative result, but then it was not that bad. Anyway, when I started pondering, then I started reading Quran and other biblical works, because I had to kill time after office also. In the meantime, my department was so happy with my work that they offered me a permanent position in that department. 2 years in Iraq, and after that I could have been transferred to headquarters or any other country. Permanency in UN means pensionable job. After 2 years, I would have been pensionable. So obviously that attraction was very, very strong, because the pension would have could have been around $5,000-6,000 US per month easily. So, and that is a lot of money. So that pool was there. But then I was so much involved in Sai activities back home also that I wanted to come back also to Nepal. So, but overall, I would say about 70% my attraction was to continue. In the meantime, one incident happened that completely shattered my thought, my life, and changed the course of my life. Our office used to open officially at 8:30. And in 2000, there was no public email facility in Iraq because it was under UN embargo. So only offices were allowed to have routers and email systems. So what I used to do was, I used to reach office around 8 o'clock, about half an hour before. Within half an hour, finish my personal, emailing and all that, personal works, and then engage after 8:30 in official business. So that day also, I did the same thing. Around 8:40, suddenly I remembered I had to go for a meeting in some ministry. So I went down to the secretary's office or reception office, and reception office was, in a typical hotel or a long building or a hospital. You will see some portico, car parking. So we also had a similar type of portico, and that portico was covered or was made as a reception room because of shortage of space inside the main building. And the covering was done by black glasses, tinted glasses, so that from outside it could not be seen who is inside there and who is doing what. So when I reached there, the receptionist was there. I asked her for the driver to call the driver. Driver came, and I told driver, take out the car, let's go to this office for the meeting. That meeting was adjourned only a day before, and we had agreed that we will continue that meeting today. Then driver said, sir, it is only 8:40, and it is hardly 5 minutes drive from here, and that office starts at 9:30, and until 10, people don't come over there, and we had agreed yesterday that the meeting would start at 10, but why do you want to go so early? Then suddenly I remembered, yes. Meantime, a man came with 2 automatic rifles, AK-47 rifles. He just burst through the main entrance. As soon as the receptionist saw that man, receptionist and the driver, they fled back to the main building and locked the door from inside. So now I was with that man, the terrorist. He pulled me by my cuff, and then I was sitting, in fact, that time on the sofa. Then he pulled me, he raised me. And seeing that terrorist enter into UN building, the UN guards office, which was just about 30 feet away, they had started firing at him. Now he was inside that room covered with black glasses, not to be seen from outside. So they were firing at him. Then what he did was he also started firing at them. So there was a crossfire. He pulled me and brought one chair and made me to sit there. He was a fairly, just average, maybe 5 feet, 2-3 inches maximum, fairly thin person. And then he could be easily hidden behind me. All I want to say is that. So he made me sit on the chair, hid himself behind me, and put 2 rifles just beside my body, and they started, firing at the guards. The guards were also firing because they didn't know where he was hiding. all they could see was the bullets coming from a certain direction, and they were also firing at that direction. And in that direction, I was sitting there. The interesting thing is that. So I just closed my eyes. The bullets were, passing something like this. Sit. And I was with closed eyes, I was always chanting either Gayatri or Sai Ram. Nothing else. Either Gayatri mantra or Sai Ram. This cross-firing happened a couple of times, 2 to 3 times. 3 times, I would say. I remember, if I remember correctly. We were, and all the 3 times, by the grace of Swami, I was saved. Nothing happened. The bullets didn't hit me at all. And during our briefing session, when we joined UN office there, the security office had given us briefing that if this sort of situation ever takes place, we should always remain calm and try to buy time so that they will not kill us, or they will not, or UN will have a time to, do rescue planning. So, remembering that, I started becoming friendly with him. I was doing so many things. There are so many things, but I will just try to focus on the main incidences or main things. And I tried to win his confidence on me, or his faith on me. I said, his main demand was, he was always shouting on telephone, UN should lift embargo. And there is one UN consultant under my captivity. If you don't do that, you will be killed, and this whole building will be blown by bomb. I didn't understand Arabic, but then I could make out what he said. But I tried to be friendly with him and win his friendship. And that really paid me. What he started doing was, on the table of the receptionist, sometimes he would put his rifles, both rifles, and just roam around inside the room and, talk with me in Arabic, which I didn't understand. I used to talk in English, which he didn't understand, but somehow we communicated. I said, Nepal, Iraq, good friends. And then he said, you're Nepal? You're from Nepal? I said, yes. He was slightly taken aback. He thought that he would captivate some Europeans, and then you will have a more bargaining power. Anyway, once he kept his rifles on the table, and then he was just going around. Physically, that man was maybe about 5 feet to 3 inches, and not very strong built also, whom I could easily overpower. So once I thought that why not to overpower him? So I was looking. I thought I was looking for an opportunity when he keeps his rifles on the table, or when opportune moments come to overpower him. As soon as that thought came into my mind, I would say even less than a second, he just turned towards me and he said, if anybody tries to kill me, and then he opened the zip of his jacket and showed his chest. and his chest was full of bombs, grenades. He was prepared for a suicidal bomb. So he said, and then he showed me the detonating switch, which was always in his hand. He said, if anybody tries to kill me, I'll blow this whole building and kill everyone. My goodness, suddenly, this cold sweat passed through my spines. And then I thanked Swami. Swami, you saved me, not only me, even those. There were 43 people inside. And most of them, of course, were local staffs. But I think, if I remember correctly, about 6 of them were expats from different countries. Like that, 3.5 hours passed. And he had total confidence on me that I will not harm him. I was sympathizing with him. And, he would just put his rifles everywhere. And then by another act also, perhaps he might have thought that I was his friend. There was another door, which was leading towards the veranda. And the far end of the veranda was the driver's room. And that door didn't have any latches. So for protection, what he did was he pulled sofas and then chairs and tables and put behind the doors so that nobody can just open from outside. And I helped him. When he was pulling the sofas, I also helped him. So, and both of us worked together to make that door very strong. After 3.5 hours, once he just went out of room, he was just strolling. Then suddenly I thought, this is the time to escape from his captivity. Otherwise, I don't know how many days, how many months, how many years I'll be under him, or he might even kill me. I had seen some guards at the far end of the building at driver's room, some barrels, tip of the barrels. So I could make out that those must be UN guards. So what I thought was, if I somehow escape through this door, those guards would protect me, like in cinemas, war cinemas. They are protecting. They will cover me. And if he tries to shoot at me, they will also shoot at him. So I don't know from where I got that strength. I just pulled that door. Now imagine, sofa was there, table, chairs, everything had been stacked against that door. I just said, Sai Ram, and pulled. Suddenly the door opened and I ran. Sai Ram, saying Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. As I had imagined, the UN security guards were there. They just pulled me inside the driver's room, and then somehow I escaped from there. When I escaped from there, he also surrendered because he had no person under him, under his captivity. And then I came to know that 2 persons hiding on the first floor were killed by the bullets fired at him. All the time he was with me on ground floor. We were both together, and UN guard's office was just about 30 feet away from there. So they were firing at him or me, or whatever one can say. And how could the bullets go to first floor, fired from a distance of just 30 feet, just 30 feet, 25, 30 feet, that's all, and kill 2 persons? Immediately I reasoned. I thought perhaps the bullets which were directed to me or redirected elsewhere. So there was some invisible hand saving me. And that day happened to be my birthday. And in Nepal, on our birthday, we always do Ashtachiranjeevi puja of 8, immortal persons like Hanuman, Vibhishana, etc. And my wife was doing that because Iraq then was non-family duty station. So I was staying there alone. So my wife was doing that Ashtachiranjeevi puja exactly the same time, praying to Bhagawan for the longevity. And that incident happened over there exactly at the same time. So immediately I thought, Swami gave me benediction to come over here for a short period of time. Perhaps he wanted me to experience that area also. But then I was about to be living for permanently with the UN. Then I thought, Swami perhaps means that I sent you for a short period of time, but now you want to live there for permanently. So on this day of your birthday, I am giving you new lease of life, totally new life. Thinking this, I immediately resigned from the UN, that lucrative consultant job. Although I was under tremendous pressure from the headquarters, even executive director also called me and he wanted me to or he even offered me a transfer at other countries, provided I cancel that resignation, withdraw that resignation. But I didn't do that. I said, nothing doing. The call has come from my master, I'll go back. And then I came back to Nepal. As I said, I was vice chairman of the Central Council that time. As soon as I came back to Nepal, within 3 months, I was made chairman of the council. The situation so developed that my predecessor had to step down and I came in. Although his term was extended for next 2 years, just about 3 months back. So after that, I plunged myself into Sai Organization activities, and till now, I'm into it.
But when did you come to Sai fold, and how was your first visit to Prasanthi Nilayam?
It was mid-70s, I would say, I heard about Swami. But then that was a time when I was very young, and people that age used to, even now also, they think that Swami was a magician and, a trickster or blah, blah. And more like a saint or a yogi or Siddha Purus, not as God. It was but somehow that attraction was there to visit him. So I was always curious to know about Swami. And then I started reading books on Swami. I don't exactly remember which book, maybe that Howard Murphy's book, but something like that, very similar to that book I read. And then I felt that I must visit Puttaparthi. So in 83, first time I came here, I visited, I had a darshan, first darshan. But then that pool was not there, that big, as soon as I saw Swami, I just, felt jittery or blah, blah. I mean, I didn't feel like that. It was a very, very normal darshan. I went back. But then somehow I wanted to come here every year. So every year I used to make it a point to visit this part of India and come to Puttaparthi and stay here for a week or 10 days. That time I was in job, so I could not stay here for long. in government job. I was, And from 83, I started coming here. And in 2000, year 2001, I became chairman of the National Council. So it was more like a gradual, development, I would say.
Yeah, and then 2000, the Iraq thing happened, and I think that would have really strengthened your faith.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure after that you would have experienced so many more ways how he had been protecting you, guiding you, isn't it?
Oh, yes. That faith has been tremendous. So many incidences have occurred in my life. And those incidences have really bolstered my faith on him. I can narrate a couple of more, but then one very, very interesting one, if I may narrate.
Please.
So, I think, it was in the year 2004. Then we had to organize one culture program during Guru Purnima time at Puttaparthi, and by Bal Vikas students. So 272 Bal Vikas students and their guardians were supposed to come to Puttaparthi, and along with them some devotees. So nearly 500-600 of us were about to come. Just about 10 days before we left Nepal, we had to leave Nepal. That was the time when Maoist insurgency was at peak. Those who do not know about Maoist insurgency in Nepal, we really had terrible time. About 12 years in Nepal, about 17,000 people were killed by those insurgents, especially businessmen and those who did not follow them, or did not do anything as they said, were killed brutally. And those who did not fund them when they asked money also were killed. So just about 10 days before, I received a letter saying that I must give them 50 lakhs rupees or 5 million rupees by next day. Otherwise, they will blow my house. And my father, who had come to Kathmandu from my hometown, he was an octogenarian. He will also be killed. That time I had a business, which was the same business as I mentioned earlier, which was doing fantastic. So somehow they came to know, they knew that I was making money. So they wanted 5 million rupees from me. I was in a fix what to do. Then I immediately reported to army. One of my cousins was a general who was in charge of that area, Kathmandu area. He sent 2 of his people, and they went around, and at the end of their, sort of surveillance and all that, they said, well, you be careful, there's hardly we can do. All you have to do is, you have to be careful yourself. And if any significant development occurs, then just tell us. Then after 2 days, I received another letter again. That's read, you reported to army. If you don't give us money by next day, we'll kill you. The same threat again. Still, I didn't pay heed. I had tremendous faith on Swami. I said, I have to leave after a week for Puttaparthi. And Swami, what test you are doing this? And they meant business. Those Maoists, they were very, very serious people. Very, very notorious. Notoriously serious people. Then after a day or two, again I received another letter. Oh, you are not going to give? You want to go to India? I mean, they knew everything somehow, from where I don't know, but somehow they had that information source also within their reach. So they said, you are going to India, you are going to that, to Sai Baba's place. If you don't give us 25 lakhs or 2.5 million rupees, we'll kill you. We'll blow your house. So that way, that threat started coming. And at the same time, the amount also started reducing. Just a day before I had to leave for Puttaparthi, I was really in a fix what to do. I mean, a lot of tensions were there, obviously. And just a day before, another letter came that we know you are going tomorrow to India. If you don't give that money, we'll blow your house. And then they reduced amount to 10 lakhs, 1 million rupees. I told my wife, look, we are going to Puttaparthi, Swami's place, with Swami's work. If we have to be killed, we will be killed. And then I remembered one slokas of a quotation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think that is in Bengali language. It reads, Rakhe Krishna mare Krishna rakhe ke. If Krishna wants to save you, nobody can kill you, like Prahlad, case of Prahlad. If Krishna wants to destroy anybody, nobody can save him. Kamsa or Hiranyakasipu, examples are there. So I said to my wife, come what may, we will go. We have surrendered to Swami, we have to go because about 500-600 people are dependent on us. If we don't go, then whole program will be shattered. Then we came to Puttaparthi. We took early morning flight. Then we didn't have a direct flight, so we had to come through Delhi. In the night we reached here. Next morning, early morning, around 5 o'clock, my nephew and son, they called me and they said, they read another letter which was sent by these Maoists. It read, despite our warning to you, you left for India. Now you will see the consequence. We will blow your house. Otherwise, you give us 10 lakhs rupees, 1 million rupees by this evening. Obviously, I was under extreme tension. Then at 6 o'clock, I came for darshan. I was sitting in East Veranda, and just beside me was Dr. Jumsai also. Swami came. He was about 20 feet away from me. Then I saw a letter pad in Jumsai's lap. I asked him a page because I didn't have guts to speak to Swami. I mean, I was so emotionally charged, I couldn't say anything except non-verbal communication. So I asked for a sheet of paper and took from Jumsai, and I wrote in Nepali language, Swami, you are omniscient. You know what is happening with me and my house and my family. Please save us. By the time I finished writing that letter, Swami was just about 3-4 feet away from me. He just looked at me. I just held it like this. He asked, he took, read whole thing and looked at me, smiled mischievously, and then nodded as if, okay, I mean, and then eyebrows also, I mean, when we say, okay, I mean, he did something like that, okay, I'll protect you. I was on seventh heaven, I said, okay. Then immediately I informed my nephew, now don't worry, even if you keep your doors open, nothing will happen to you. And the same evening, those miscreants were arrested by army. What I'm trying to say is we had surrendered to Swami, and Swami saved us. Despite such a threat, we left our house, our family, and came to Swami. And obviously, Swami being God, he knew everything. So he respected the amount of surrender we placed at his lotus feet. So I would say, once we have that faith and surrender to Swami, he is there to protect us. So there are so many other incidences I can narrate. I mean, maybe not of these magnitude of these two incidences, slightly lower scale. But then Swami has always been providing invisible hand to me especially, and protecting me from worst situation. So I have a tremendous faith on Swami. And every time I tell my friends, Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke.
Wow. And I think you have seen the reward of this faith, isn't it? Especially when you take up so many projects for the organization. I know the Nepal Sai Organization is into so many service projects. And every time you feel how he does miracles, how he makes things happen, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I can. Well, from that point of view, Nepal is a burning example of miracles or Swami's, I would say, intervention in the organization development. When I joined Central Council about 25 years back, there were only 23 centers in whole of the country, only 23 centers. After our team took over, suddenly the number started increasing because we worked so hard. We went to remote areas, dissipating Swami's messages. And as a result, currently we have got 226 centers, perhaps the largest number of centers in any country in the world, after India. Of course, I mean, India we can't compare. But among overseas countries, we have got the largest number of centers. And out of 226 centers, about 135, if I guess correctly, have their own buildings. And some of the buildings are so big as to be able to accommodate 1,200, 1,500 devotees in bhajan or in programs. We never do our programs in any convention hall outside our centers. We always do in our bhajan halls, in our Sai Center buildings, because they are so big. Besides those 135 own buildings, we have constructed 8 large water projects, drinking water projects in hilly areas, remote areas. Each one of them using about 100 kilometers of pipelines, a crisscross of pipelines, distribution and then transmission also. We have old age home, our own building. We have 2 orphanages, one for the girl and one for the boys, 2 Sai schools. All these projects have been constructed within last two and a half decades, 25 years. Now one can imagine in a country of economic background as Nepal, how could it be possible? Can anyone think that it is really possible? Perhaps we have got largest number of buildings in the world in Sai Organization, our own buildings, 135 buildings. Nowhere, no other country has got that much. When we start any project, we don't have any fund. We never start any project with a lot of cash or a lot of fund in the bank balance, as bank balance. The only fund we have is a tremendous faith on Swami that he will succeed it. And the Maha Mantra of that faith is, we always say, whenever we embark on a project, that project is always in the name of Sai, like Sathya Sai Drinking Water Project, Sathya Sai School, Sathya Sai Old Age Home. So when we name that project as Sathya Sai, obviously it is the Sathya Sai who is the owner of that project. So as owner, he has to provide the resources, and which he has done, and he's been doing also. Currently also we have one school under construction. Its total budget is 170 million rupees, is about 1.4 million US dollars. 1.4 million US dollars. For a country like Nepal, 1.4 million US dollars worth project is unimaginable. And that also in Sai Organization, where we don't seek public solicitation. And that project is under construction. It would have been completed by now, but because of this lockdown, it is slightly delayed. And we started 3 years back, and now about 80% is complete. So just imagine the amount of fund that is pouring in. When we have a faith on Swami, he provides everything. Because we always say we are non-salaried staffs of a large multinational company, chairman of which is Sathya Sai Baba. We are simply a worker for him. He is the one who has to provide resources, and that faith has, perhaps I would say power, even power even for Swami to provide us resources, because we are working selflessly for him.
Wow. I mean, they say that with little faith, you can go to heaven, but with great faith, heaven will come to you. And I think that is what is happening in Nepal. So many little Prasanthis are being created in Nepal because of this beautiful rock-like faith and the love of the devotees of Nepal.
Thank you. Yes, that is very true. That is very true. We have a strong faith for Swami, and that faith is really working tremendously, wonderfully. Even Brother Bisu, you have visited Nepal 2 years back. You might have seen even in rural areas also, remote areas also, our centers are there, and center buildings also.
Absolutely.
Even in rural areas where they are, most of their livelihood is at a very, very low level, but there also you'll find the building, and that is just because of the faith. Donors just pour in.
Absolutely.
I'll just give you another example. Yeah, I might, if time allows.
Please, yes.
Long time back, one of the centers in a very small hamlet, they had started construction. Huge center. I told them repeatedly, don't go for that, this sort of business, a big one. They said, no, we'll construct a big one so that we can organize meetings and then seminars and then Sai conferences, everything here also. As I thought, I had expected, the construction was stopped because there was no fund at one point of time. So once I had been there, I went there for different reasons. I visited that center. They asked me for my permission to organize one Saptaha. We call Saptaha, this Bhagavad Saptaha. Now that has become a business in Nepal. I don't know in India what is there. But there they raise a lot of fund that way. Millions of rupees, They put garland. Okay, if you are giving so much, so many lakhs, you'll be seated on the dais. So, that way they entice donors. So they wanted to organize that. I said, don't do that. Swami doesn't like. Then they said, then our building is incomplete. Now, how to complete? I said, just pray to Swami. Have a strong faith and pray to Swami and leave to his teachings. He will provide fund. Fund should not be a problem. They started doing that. After a couple of days, that time, I'm talking of eastern part of Nepal. The government had privatized all their tea gardens. Earlier, government used to own tea gardens, so they had privatized. And one of the tea garden manager or owner was from Calcutta. He had come to visit his tea garden there. In fact, it was given on lease. And he happened to be Sai devotee. And, he searched for Sai Center and came over there for bhajan. When he saw incomplete building, he asked them, why the building is incomplete? They said, well, we don't have fund. He said, how much it requires to complete it? They said, certain amount. He said, okay, please send somebody to my office tomorrow. It will be, I'll give you.
Wow.
See,
amazing.
That faith has been really, I would, I can, maybe if I can say, forcing even God to support us.
Yeah. And I know that every center in Nepal has a beautiful story like this.
Oh, yes.
Every center has a story which will leave you amazed at the love that people have for Bhagawan. Finally, you are someone who had the opportunity to be in Prasanthi Nilayam for Guru Purnima. How does it feel being in Prasanthi Nilayam after so many months?
Oh, this is another... about 2 weeks before, when we saw that darshan was will be open, or was about to be open, suddenly that attraction, that strong desire to visit here was there. We wanted to visit immediately, but then all international flights are suspended. Then we decided we'll visit. What we did, most of us are from Kathmandu area. Now 9 of us are here at the moment. We drove from Kathmandu 12 hours to the border town, Lumini, Siddharth Nagar, we call it. And then from across the border, and then 3 hours inside India to Gorakhpur. And from there we took flight for Bangalore. As soon as we reached here, the moment we reached around 10 o'clock in the night, when we reached here, we are very grateful to ashram authorities for giving us accommodation inside. Perhaps we are one of the few people inside ashram. As soon as we entered ashram, we felt, all of us, so much peace and joy. We can't even describe. We just bumped our backs and then went for darshan, Gayatri Mandir and Lakshmi. And the reason we came here is, I'll just tell you why. When Global Council was announced by the Central Trust, Nepal was the first country from abroad, among overseas countries, to join. And Guru Purnima was scheduled to be the launching day officially for Global Council. So we wanted to express our solidarity also to Global Council, and also to be the first country to visit Prasanthi Nilayam when Global Council was officially launched. So that way, we came here. But we are extremely happy. I mean, I have been here numerous times, maybe might have been nearly 100 times, because every year, sometimes even 5 times I have been here. And for the last 20, 25 years, I am doing that. But perhaps the amount of happiness we received this time, is no comparison to my previous visits. Not only mine, but even our other friends also, colleagues also. They are also feeling the same thing.
Because you were missing Prasanthi so much. And once you breathe the Prasanthi air, you can't express the joy and the bliss. That
very much so, very much. Prasanthi Nilam is our life. Without it, I mean, we have witnessed it, because for 20 months we were away from Prasanthi Nilam, and that we didn't feel so much until we reached here, telling you frankly. As soon as we entered from the gate, my goodness, undescribable. I mean, the amount of joy because at 10 o'clock in the night, all of us went around the ashram, doing darshan. I mean, that was wonderful.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, sir, for taking your time. And it's really been a very, very thrilling session listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Visu, for giving me this opportunity to express my feelings. And all I can say to my friends, those who watch this video later on, that have faith on Swami. Once you have a strong faith on Swami and surrender to Swami, nothing can happen to you. That terrorist bullets also will be diverted to somewhere else, which I have seen, I have witnessed myself. Or those Maoists bombs also don't work once we have faith with Swami. Jai Sai Ram.